The Warriors, Bucks, Lakers and the Raptors. Those are the four last champions. We haven't seen a team repeat since the Warriors in 2018 and I love it. This year, more than ever, I think that anyone can win it and I'm loving that even more. I haven't been looking deeply into every team's rosters, player stats and deep analytics this season, but I'm going to rank the teams in playoff contention this video, from contenders to pretenders. So let's start. First off, there's three categories: pretender, conference competitors and contenders. The pretender category is for teams who have little to no shot at the title, in my opinion. Conference competitors are just that, teams who are competing for the conference finals or a deep playoff push at best. And then we have contenders, teams who have a legitimate chance at the title. Right now, these are the teams in playoff contention, so let's start ranking them. Starting from the bottom of each conference, we have teams like the Lakers, Hawks, Raptors, Bulls, Jazz and Thunder. Immediately, I'm putting every team here into pretenders besides one, and that's the Lakers. I'm a Lakers fan, so it might seem biased, but I'm also intrigued with their recent performance. The Lakers have made a huge switch to their roster with some big additions in D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, Mo Bamba and Malik Beasley, just to name a few. Nobody here is a superstar, don't get me wrong, but I think that someone like D'Angelo Russell is a big benefit. He's a solid playmaker, scorer and a very good three-point shooter. The reason I don't exclude the Lakers immediately is because of LeBron and AD. AD has been injured, it seems, for the past 2 seasons, but since his return, he's played 21 games and averaged 24 points and 13 rebounds with 2 blocks, shooting 51% from the field as well. To me, they're pretty solid numbers. Actually, in that same time period, only Jokic has been able to average a similar amount of points and rebounds. This guy's an MVP candidate and AD is matching him, so that tells you quite a bit. But the Lakers have a bigger piece than AD, and that's LeBron. Right now, he's out injured, but in his last 10 games before going down, he was averaging 28, 7 and 8. Just because we have LeBron, I don't think you can count the Lakers out just yet. If we get to the play-in tournament, we might cause an upset, but I'm not delusional. We're definitely not contenders, and we're not even at conference competitors right now. I just think that we're a team to watch out for if we get healthy before playoffs. Next up, we have teams like the Mavs, Heat, Cavs, Knicks, Warriors, Clippers, Grizzlies and Nets. Most of these teams fall into conference competitors. The Mavs are interesting, but they have a problem. The addition of Kyrie has been more exciting to hear about, but it's less productive on paper. Since his trade, the Mavs are 7-9 with him. That's not so much of a reflection on Kyrie, but on the Mavs as a whole. With their recent losses, I see it hard for them to cement themselves as a true contender just yet. The Knicks, in my opinion, are a very solid team, but they're just missing that killer piece for them. And it's definitely needed in the East when you have to run through 3 teams with MVP caliber players in Tatum, Giannis and Embiid. The Nets and Cavs are teams I can see going further though. I can see them causing an upset. More so the Cavs than the Nets, but I can see both teams being a hard series for any team. The Nets have a solid group of players from the trades that they did with Kyrie and KD, and they also have great talent from before like Cam Thomas and Claxton. And that's what makes both teams dangerous, because they have consistent performers and solid players with good depth. The Cavs are just more dangerous because they have 2 all-star players in Mitchell and Garland, who they've surrounded with other great players like LeVert, Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen, just to name a few. The way these teams are constructed is better than most because they don't have all-stars and watered down talent around them. They spread the workload across the team. It's not like the Nets experiment where they had KD, Kyrie and Harden, a top-heavy team with watered down talent around them. Or you can even compare it to the Mavericks right now with Luka and Kyrie. I can see the Cavs competing for the conference finals and the Nets can be in a similar situation, but I don't think they'll succeed just yet. On to the Warriors and Grizzlies. These are very interesting to me. The Grizzlies are a very talented group, but I just think that their egos and their mouths will cause them trouble. All it takes is a player suspended for a game and the momentum of a series can swing. More so than suspensions though is the loss of Ja. Without him, I don't know how far they can go this year. Since his suspension, the Grizzlies have won 6 games and lost 3, so it shows that they can beat teams without him. But when it gets to the playoffs, it's a different story. I think Ja will return in time for the playoffs, and I do think that the Grizzlies can go far. I'm just not convinced that it's their time yet. I can see them competing again for the conference finals. They're a great defensive team and a very good offensive team as well. They're really young, and so this team can go far not only this season but for the rest of the decade. Now, the Warriors. They're the defending champions with the majority of their championship roster still intact, but there's a few problems. Wiggins has been missing for the majority of this season, and he was a massive piece for them, grabbing rebounds and playing great defense for the Warriors, and they've definitely felt that loss. There's also rumours of a rift and a divide between the veteran core and the youngsters. One player who comes to mind immediately is Jordan Poole. There's already 3 incidents I can think of. First off, the Draymond punch and fight, and there's been 2 times where he shot the ball whilst Clay and Steph have been standing wide open. You can see them get visibly angry, and rightfully so. These problems have definitely limited the Warriors within the regular season, but once it comes playoff time, I don't think you can count this group out because of their experience and talent. You've still got Steph Curry, who's pretty much in his prime, Clay has come back and he's still a great player, and Draymond is a great glue piece. Now, a dark horse within this category are the Clippers. Not because they traded for Russell Westbrook, but because they have Kawhi. Kawhi seems to elevate his game in the playoffs, but more importantly, he's a consistent performer. I think the Clippers have enough to beat any team in their conference. It's just if they can click together and fire on all cylinders when it's time to do so. It's going to be interesting to see how this new roster will work together and how far they can actually go. The Heat are also dark horses. They definitely have the talent, but it's translating that talent to wins. I don't know what's happened since last year. They were the first seed in the East and made it to the conference finals, but now they're in the playing tournament. I can see them elevating their game in the playoffs, and I can see them beating teams placed above them, like the Knicks or even the Nets, purely based off playoff experience. But I can't see them competing for the conference finals. I think that their performance has been too lackluster, and other teams in the East will have too much for them to combat it with. All these teams fall into this category, but bear in mind that teams rank higher than others within this bracket, like the Grizzlies are higher than the Knicks, for example. Now onto the final category, the contender category. Teams here are the Kings, Nuggets, Celtics, 76ers, Suns and Bucks. I have the Kings here because of their standings in the West, but in reality I can't see them competing for the title as of right now, so I would slide them to the top of the conference contenders. So that leaves us with the Nuggets, Celtics, 76ers, Suns and Bucks. All these teams fall into this category, but who ranks above who? The Nuggets have the reigning MVP in Jokic, who could three-peat for them this season, and they also have the return of Jamal Murray, who hasn't changed since his injury. His numbers are almost exactly the same. The difference is, Jokic now has him for the playoffs, unlike last year. The Nuggets have a lot of good talent in Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr. and even KCP to an extent. They're also tied as the best three-point shooting team in the league, which shows their efficiency, but they also rank almost last in three-point shots taken. This is a good sign though, because it shows that they don't rely predominantly on the free ball and they don't live or die by it. The Nuggets actually rank first in the league for field goal percentage though, so they have the ability to score in whichever way they like. They rank top 10 in points per game, but near last in free throws attempted. These stats matter because it shows that the Nuggets can score, and they can score in many ways, but they don't rely on any specific way to get their points. They can make threes, but they don't rely on it, and they don't need free throws to win games. If you asked me in January, I would tell you that the Nuggets are my favourite to come out of the West, but now I'm not so sure, and that's because of the Suns. The Suns were solid this season, but they were nothing special to be honest. That was until they traded for KD. The media has definitely strayed away from the Suns this season, so I have no idea on how certain players have performed. Numbers wise, CP3 has been similar to last year, but definitely declining. Booker has missed a huge stretch of games in the middle of the season, but since his return, he's averaged 34 and 5 on great efficiency. So overall, the Sun stars aren't looking bad, and in the 3 games KD did play, he's shown the same brilliance he has done his entire career, and especially in Brooklyn. The difference maker here is their losses. The Suns have lost Jay Crowder, Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges, 3 players who were impact players off the bench, and I think the Suns might be underestimating how much they actually brought to the table. Bridges was a versatile defender, Crowder was a consistent role player, and Johnson was a sniper from 3. I think this team is dangerous. They're actually really dangerous, but I just have a feeling that they won't get to the finals. I don't know if it's injury or lackluster performances or the fact that they haven't played enough together. I just can't see them in the finals this year. But now onto the East. Philly have been on a tear lately, especially Embiid, having a stretch of 9 games or so with 30 or more points. He's just been such a bucket. I think that Harden playing at his point guard role is brilliant, and his numbers have been amazing too, shooting nearly 40% from 3 and leading the league in assists. To combine with this, you have Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, Georges Niang and Tucker, who have all shot nearly 40% from 3, some shooting over that and some shooting just slightly under. Tucker is also a big addition, as he was a big part of the Bucks' success in their championship run. The biggest problem with the Sixers is their experience. They have playoff experience, but they don't have deep playoff experience. Embiid has never seen the conference finals, Harden hasn't led a team to the finals, and has shrank in big games before. The other pieces I mentioned also don't have championship experience either, besides PJ Tucker. There's also been questions around Doc Rivers and his ability in the playoffs, despite him being a championship coach. I see the Sixers going far, especially with Embiid, because there's really only one player who can stop him in the East, and that's Giannis. And even then, Embiid is so good that you can only limit him, you can't ever stop him really. The Sixers have a championship roster, but it's just translating their success from the regular season to the playoffs, which will be the biggest question that needs to be answered. On to the Celtics, the reigning conference champs. This team has kept their roster pretty much the same since last year, but with the addition of Malcolm Brogdon, who has been big for them. Being the backup point guard, averaging 14, 4 and 3 on nearly 50-40-90 splits, it's really impressive. The Celtics don't just have depth there, but they also have it at every position. Their second unit consists of Brogdon, White, Hauser, Grant Williams and Al Horford. This is what separates the Celtics from 99% of the teams. Their bench depth is incredible. These players are competent starters on other teams, like Derek White on the Spurs and Brogdon on the Pacers. Not only is their depth incredible, but their stars have also taken a leap. Tatum and Brown have both improved, with most of their numbers being better than last year. The Celtics are also one of the best two-way teams in the league, ranking 4th in both defensive and offensive rating. In fact, no team has a higher joint defense and offensive rating than them. And with their first finals appearance, I think they've just got a taste for it now, and they want to go back for more. But onto our final team, and that's the Bucks. Led by Giannis, they have the best record in the NBA. They've done this also with the absence of Middleton, who has played about 30 games this season. I don't know anything about his injury or absences or if he'll return for the playoffs, but even without him, I think they're in good stead for the playoffs because of their second All-Star in Drew Holiday. Holiday has been fantastic this season, up in his numbers from the year before. Holiday is a massive difference maker as well, being one of the key pieces for their 2021 championship. He's a massive threat offensively, as he can shoot well, and when he heats up, he's almost unstoppable from 3. He's a great playmaker, a willing passer and a very versatile defender who can guard up to 3 positions. The Bucks also gained a big piece in Jay Crowder. Although he's not an all-star caliber player, he's a fantastic role player, helping teams like the Celtics, Cavs, Heat and Suns in the past. His size for defense and his shooting ability for offense is a big gain for the Bucks. The Bucks also have a leading candidate for the Defensive Player of the Year award in Brook Lopez, a massive factor in their championship success, just like Drew Holiday. To top off this roster, they have Giannis, who is having himself a season. My man is just dominating the league, averaging 31, 12 and 6 whilst being in the MVP race. But I know that Giannis only cares about one thing, and that's the championship. After a blowout Game 7 loss to the Celtics, I think that he's looking for revenge. For this category, I can't give you my opinion for definite, but one thing I'm confident on is that the Eastern Conference will most likely have the NBA champions in it. Earlier in the season, I thought the Celtics would win it. Now I'm slightly swaying in the way of the Bucks. I think that the Sixers are definitely up there for contenders, but I feel that both the Celtics and the Bucks edged them out ever so slightly, and with both of these teams having finals experience, it just stacks the odds further in their favour. In the West, it's really tough to call. The Nuggets and Jokic are phenomenal, but I can see the Suns causing trouble as a Swiss Army knife of offense, especially if KD returns. But the Warriors and Clippers can't be counted out just yet either. Then you have Luka and Kyrie. Although they aren't on form right now, we've seen playoff Luka and he can make the incredible happen. If I had to say a team to win it outright, I might have to say the Celtics because of their well-rounded roster and depth, but also their two-way ability. Defense wins championships after all, and at the end of the day, they have Marcus Smart, who was a Defensive Player of the Year last year, Tatum and Brown, who are both incredible wing defenders, as well as Robert Williams, who is an all-defensive player. I think the Bucks are definitely a team to watch, and the East as a whole will win the title in my opinion, but I'm open to being wrong. Let me know who you think's coming out of each conference and who you think will win the title in the comments below. I'm locking in my finals matchup as the Celtics versus the Nuggets. That's going to wrap it up for today's video. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, and if you did, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. And with that said, I'll see you in the next one.